What's happening, everybody? On today's show, more on the latest with Lane Kiffin. Where is he going? Is he staying at Ole Miss? Is he going to Auburn? We'll talk all about it with our buddy Chris Marler from the College Football Uncensored podcast, and we'll get you ready for rivalry week in the SEC. Tons of great matchups happening this weekend. Locked On SEC starts right now.
Are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, what's happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On SEC is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube and at lockedonsec.com. All right, let's jump into it. Plenty to discuss. We welcome in our buddy Chris Marler from the College Football Uncensored podcast. Marler, how are you on this Thanksgiving week?
I'm good, man. I'm actually at home with my family at my mom's house. She's a pastor, but she is big into scotch. I tell you what, the best part about coming home, always, besides the unconditional love or whatever, is the snacks. Like my parents just have they just have so many more snacks than I have. There's just like any kind of like pregnant craving I could ever imagine would be covered at this house. And I love it. I love it for that.
Like what kind of snack?
I mean, like last night I was like knee deep into like a bottle of 12-year Balvenie and mesquite barbecue chips. Listen to Twitter spaces about the Auburn head coaching search. And it was the happiest I've been in forever. It was fantastic. It was perfect. Like a pig in slop.
Well, let's start there because to rewind a little bit, we saw Ole Miss absolutely just have one of the worst performances of the season at Arkansas this past weekend. And there's been a lot of talk on, was Lane Kiffin not focused because he's flirting with Auburn or he's already decided to move on? And then we get a report the other night that he is indeed going to leave Auburn or leave Ole Miss for Auburn, and that he'll announce on Friday after the Egg Bowl that he's going to step down. Granted, it's coming from a TV reporter. You never know on these kind of things. I always say if it's not coming from, Pete Thamel or Brett McMurphy or anybody with that blue check mark that didn't
Chris
pay
Marler.
for it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I trust it. So it is what it is. Lane had some fun on social media, but where are we? Like, is Lane really leaving for Auburn?
Yes, 1,000%. I said this last week on our podcast. I was like, they're going to lose to Arkansas. And he's gonna announce afterwards that he's going to Ole Miss. Like, explain to me this. First off, not enough has been made about the fact that game had 3 200-yard rushers. 3. Like, and this isn't like
it came in garbage time, right? I mean, Rocket Sanders was killing it. Quinshawn and Zach Evans came in garbage
time. But like the fact that was happening is still, I think, says a lot. And so, regardless of that. Yeah, he's gone. He's 1,000% gone. And like, I don't think, Jesus, Lane, look at the pain behind those eyes. If you're not watching this during the actual, like the YouTube presentation, you need to. And we say it every week because I get so distracted because of my ADD and also the great pictures you throw up there. But the fact that he has gone into that game, and you said it was the worst performance of the season. I would argue it's probably the worst performance of his entire career at Ole Miss, like his entire tenure at Ole Miss. I mean, like, what other game did they look worse in? Because, I mean, like, you can say the Bama game last year where they came in and were completely overmatched and were down 28-0 at the half. But at the same time, I mean, you were down 42-6 to Arkansas. 42-6. And I know the final score was 42-27. That's great. You scored 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns. It didn't matter at all. I think that it speaks volumes as to where the mind is or mindset of the team is. But here's the other thing too. The fact that like you kind of like just glossed over it, and people laugh at me about this, about like how Twitter is not real life, and a lot of times it's not. But in situations like this, I do think this is where you find breaking news, and I do think that like I know this person, anybody ever since Elon Musk took it over. Anybody can have a blue check mark and all that kind of stuff. And it's a weird thing. And Elon, but like, listen, if Elon's watching this, like I know he does weekly, I'm going to be upset if you ruin Twitter. And strictly because of the theater that happened last night, because of this entire thing unfolding, the guy that broke the news, right? That John Solokin or whatever his name was, that's
Sokolov.
Yeah, it was a totally made up name, or he's Polish. One of the two. It can't be both. But that guy,
he had like 2,000 followers, and now he's like almost to 5,000 now. So he's doing well.
He's also the guy that broke the news of Cohen leaving Mississippi State to go there. He's the first one that broke that. I still say, and then like there's a reason why they look so bad last week, and then you start seeing all the tweets that come out of it, and Ole Miss fans defending him, because Ole Miss fans have a point, man. Like they really do have a point where it's like, we've ponied up the money, we've given you the extension, we've given you everything you've asked for, we bumped up all of our money in support for the NIL system, all of these things that you wanted in place, the Grove Collective or whatever it's called, like we've ponied up all of the stuff on our end. Why haven't you shown commitment? And they deserve to have that kind of commitment. If you've shown that much of a commitment to him, you deserve to have some of that back. And the fact that they haven't done that says a lot about Kiffin, I think, as a person, for one. And two, then you start seeing stuff like Jackson Dart's dad liking all these tweets from Ole Miss fans. Like, why would he even, like, I know all this seems kind of crazy. If you're not on social media, if you think Twitter is kind of stupid, because it is, that all sounds like it's, it's hearsay, whatever. This is how news is broken a lot of times nowadays. And I think that why the hell would Jackson Dart's dad be on Twitter liking these tweets if there wasn't some fire to all this smoke?
Okay, let me ask you this, Marler, because I've been getting this from a lot of people on the outside. Is Auburn that much of a better job than Ole Miss? We've talked about the NIL collective, and that's a big part of it. Auburn is willing to give him more money, presumably, although Ole Miss is willing to give him, make him one of the highest paid coaches in the country. Like, is jumping most people see it as a lateral move. Why is Auburn a bigger upgrade than Ole Miss?
It's not. And you can't ask me that question on Rivalry Week. You can't ask me that. As a born Bama fan, it's an unfair question for you to ask me. But I'll tell you the reason why, and it's very, very simple. The main reason why, this is the only reason, honestly, in my opinion, this is even happening, is the fact that Lane Kiffin and the state of Mississippi, there's some rule in place where it's like you can only have, and I sound ignorant for saying this because I haven't looked up the rule. I don't live in Mississippi. I'm not ever going to live in Mississippi, so it'll never affect me, okay? I love the gas station chicken. I don't like the politics. I'm never going to move that place. But
well, you could. I mean, we don't know. Yeah. We can't see in the future.
But yeah, it's true. But at the same time, you cannot have a job there for more than 4 years or whatever. I know I sound like an ignorant fool right now, like trying to say this is, he's not legally allowed to sign a contract for more than 4 years. So if they pony up the money at $9.5 million, you're talking about $38 million. Auburn will give him a 10-year contract at over $10 million a year. And in the big scheme of things, and this is Auburn we're talking about, right? What is the buyout on that at the end? What's the buyout on that versus the buyout against like at Ole Miss? If someone else, if he got fired?
Yeah, I don't know.
It would be tens of millions of dollars more. And so he's going to go to Auburn because there's not that stipulation in place from the state that's really holding back the University of Mississippi and being able to find and hire like stable candidates. And here's the other thing too. What number would you have to go to, like in terms of wins per season, to even want to fire Lane Kiffin if you are Ole Miss? Because that's a program that's been delving in mediocrity for years and years and years. I don't care about 2015. I know that Hugh Freeze had these like blips on the radar, but Ole Miss is a lot like South Carolina. For the most part, it's a pretty, I don't know, middle of the road program that had some like spikes that were positive in the early 2010s. Why would he not go to Auburn?
Here's what I look at, Marler. SEC championship game appearances. Auburn, 6.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, 0. Kentucky, Ole Miss, and A&M and Vanderbilt have never played for an SEC championship game. What does Lane want to do? He wants to win a title. He wants to get to a national championship, and that is super hard at Ole Miss. It just is. I mean, he's had 2 of the best seasons ever at Ole Miss these last 2 years, and this is the ceiling. It feels like it is it's just impossible to get over that hump, beat Bama and Saban, beat LSU and Brian Kelly, beat Lee Chimmison, beat all these great coaches in the SEC West, and get to it. Just get to Atlanta. Then you got to beat the team you're playing in Atlanta, which is probably Kirby Smart and Georgia more often than not, and then get to a playoff. It's just your path to a championship. The last 2 coaches at Auburn prior to Brian Harsin have done it. They've gotten to a championship. I think that's what Lane's looking at.
You know what's scary to think about? Let me ask you this. Do you think that Lane Kiffin really cares about championships?
I think he wants to win one. He's a
Right.
competitor. I think he wants to get to one, yes.
I agree with that. I think he's a competitor, and all coaches want to win. So I know that sounds kind of weird. At the same time, I think his pettiness of wanting to do certain things I don't think he's making this move because he wants to go beat Saban at Auburn. But I will say this, it says a lot. It says a lot about the program of Auburn and Ole Miss that it is a foregone conclusion. It's true. You're right. If you go to Auburn, it's an easier road to get to the SEC championship, just the SEC championship, than it is at Ole Miss. And that's a schedule where you play Georgia and Alabama every single year. Like, what does that say about the Ole Miss program?
For now, we'll see how everything changes up with conference expansion and all that. But it's crazy. We'll see. I mean, I will say, if you're Auburn, have your contingency plans ready because this dude is such a wild card. We could come out on Friday and find out he is exciting an extension with Ole Miss. And now you're on to Hugh Freeze, maybe Cadillac. Look, if Cadillac beats Bama this Saturday, you really got to consider him, right?
Yes, but they're not going to. And I don't listen. I love the story. I don't think Cadillac is ready for that moment by any means. Because here's the thing: we talked about this on this episode or on this podcast like an episode or two ago. This is a very big hire for Auburn for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons why it is because Saban doesn't have that many years left, and if they continue to go 10-2, 9-3 type thing, the three lost seasons, they're not going to force him out ever. But he will want to leave just because of what's going on. I don't know how soon that is. They could win a national championship next year. I don't know. But it's a very big hire to where you could be putting yourself ahead of that program in state if you're Auburn. I will say this. The best part about this entire thing, I don't know if you saw this. I meant to text you last night, but it was like 1 a.m. And even I knew better after all the scotch I'd had. Did you see who also liked the tweets that Kiffin put out?
No, I don't look at who likes tweets.
Brian Harsin.
Oh, well. What a dick.
It's incredible theater, though. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, as we know, Auburn is a 22-point underdog, and Marler, 22-point underdogs don't pull off upsets. It just doesn't happen.
I hate you so much.
All right, more with Chris Marler in just a second. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Look, a lot of people are doing holiday hiring right now for the Christmas holidays. They're looking to bring people on for the holidays to bring in extra help. Go to LinkedIn Jobs. You can add your job with the purple hiring frame. They got simple tools like screening questions that make it easy for you to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you would like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Go post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This episode is also brought to you by our friends over at the TaxACT Texas Bowl. It is Houston's biggest college football event, and it's returning December 28th with the TaxACT Texas Bowl. You don't want to miss out on your chance to be a part of the passion, the pageantry, and the fun as the college football season draws to a close with the Big 12 taking on the SEC in a primetime showdown at NRG Stadium with conference bragging rights on the line. Tickets go on sale Sunday, December 4th at TaxACTTexasBowl.com, but you can visit the website today and join the priority wait list now to get your first chance to buy tickets and exclusive discounts. TaxACTTexasBowl.com. Look, we don't know who's going to be in it. It could be Arkansas. It could be Mississippi State. It could be anybody from the SEC. But thinking of some of the matchups, Kentucky, Baylor, wouldn't that be sexy? Arkansas, Kansas State. It could be any of these matchups. We'll find out in the coming weeks who it is going to be. But go join that priority wait list right now if you're a fan of an SEC team that might be playing in the TaxACT Texas Bowl. They got tailgating, live music, great food, drinks, and the spirit and energy that make college football so much fun. It'll be on full display for a fantastic night of college football. That's December 28th in prime time at NRG Stadium. I was there last year. It was so much fun, tailgating all day long. TaxACTTexasBowl.com for all the details. Sign up for the priority wait list. That's TaxACTTexasBowl.com. All right, jumping back into it with our buddy Chris Marler from the College Football Uncensored podcast. And Marler, as we start to look at this week, we got to start with the Egg Bowl. We kind of danced around it, but Thursday night, 6 p.m. Central, while we're all recovering from turkey comas, stuffing comas, mashed potatoes, whatever it is, Mississippi State versus Ole Miss. The Rebs still about a 2.5-point favorite in Oxford at Vaught Hemingway Stadium. Man, if Lane is distracted and everything like we've said, it feels like we got to load up on Will Rogers and Mike Leach, right?
It does, but it doesn't. And like here's what scares me about this, okay? One, the fact that like that was such a massive like I mean it was 42-6. It was 42-6. That is so many points to have given up, and they were favored in that game too. And it felt like Vegas knew something. I think this is like a 10-point favorite if all things are normal here. I just have a hard time thinking the Egg Bowl matters no matter what. I don't care who is coaching at Ole Miss. I think Kiffin is a big enough dickhead to like want to win on his way out and pretend that he's a good guy and like leave on a high note. I really do. I think like Kiffin is really good at two things, like gaslighting and offense. And I think that he is going to be a great probably, not great head coach at Auburn, but he'll be fine. And I do think he'll be gone Friday. Thursday night, though, I think he'll take it to Mike Leach and Auburn, in Mike Leach, Mississippi State. I don't think they have enough defense to stop him.
Mississippi State's offense has been bogged down a few times this season at LSU, at Kentucky, who's still got a pretty good defense, as we saw this past week against Georgia, at Alabama, and versus Georgia. Ole Miss's defense is not any of those teams' defenses.
No.
I think Will Rogers is going to eat. I think he's going to have 4 or 5 touchdown passes.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm not even saying you're wrong. Why does my finger look so weird? But at the same time, you said one word in particular about three of those four games you just mentioned. Do you remember what it was?
No.
On the road, this has been a different team for Mississippi State, and I just don't know. I mean, the game matters, and you're in such prime shape to go in here and make something happen. We're also only 2 years away from the most glorious Egg Bowl in the history of Egg Bowls, and it was the best. I just honestly, like, here's the thing. Take your nap, get your nature's roofie, get some tryptophan in your system, take a nap after supper, whatever you want to call it. And then at around 8:30, 9 o'clock, wake back up, halfway through the second quarter or whatever. It's on ESPN, so it probably won't be as bad as CBS. But wake back up halfway through the second quarter, get yourself a pecan pie, put it on your stomach, and like it'll be elevated to a perfect eating position. And then just sit there and enjoy the rest of this game. Because the Egg Bowl it doesn't miss. It's consistently one of the best rivalry games in the country.
Yeah, Patriots-Vikings is the NFL game that night. There's not, I mean, unless you really love Mac Jones, you're not going to be watching that one. And if Quinshon Judkins will fake pee on a touchdown celebration like he's peeing on a fire hydrant, I will absolutely lose it. So.
I hope Lane Kiffin. What if they lose because Lane Kiffin fake pees in the end zone just to end the entire thing? Like, and by the way, like I hope Lane Kiffin fires off like a Joe Moorhead touch. You're just gonna take a blah, 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 to get my Yankee ass out of here, and then leaves like the following day because he's going to leave.
We'll see. It's 50-50 right now, according to a lot of our polling. Let's get into the two games on Friday, 2:30 CBS. It is Arkansas, 6-5 Arkansas at 5-6 Mizzou. Arkansas just got bowl eligible a week ago. Mizzou trying to get bowl eligible. Mm-hmm. Arkansas only a 3-point favorite. This one is in Como. Brady Cook's played pretty well the past couple weeks. Mizzou's defense overall this year, I think, has been a little bit better than people expected, albeit that debacle against Tennessee a couple weeks ago. But I keep going back and forth on this one. I like what Arkansas did last week. They look much better cohesively with KJ Jefferson at quarterback. But, I mean, I think Mizzou is going to be fighting with everything they got to try to get to a bowl game. Yeah,
and Eli Drakowitz, like we've joked about this program a lot. I think like they're like kind of the butt of the jokes always in the SEC. Like they don't belong. This would be a very if they get to a bowl game under the radar. This is a crazy good job from Eli Drakowitz because you're in like a very competitive East, and you've had like not the easiest stretch I want to say to get there. If they're able to pull this off, it'd be awesome. I will forever hate this game. Forever. I mean, just to quote Outkast, forever, ever. Yeah, forever, ever. Because the fact that this is not LSU-Arkansas pisses me off so much. This is LSU-Arkansas and always will be. I'm taking Arkansas to cover. I think it's probably the lock of the week, to be honest. I think Sam Pittman on the road in this kind of spot is a much better. Like, it's a trophy game. We saw how much the trophy games mattered to Arkansas last year. I think they're going to matter again, and they will beat a Mizzou team that's got a good defense, and I would take the under as well, but I think Arkansas wins.
Always a threat of snow in this game. Only 51 degrees in Como, so it's going to be downright balmy for those two teams. So
I would bet you anything. I would bet you anything that my parents own at this house, because like it's not going to matter much for me. But I would bet you almost anything that it is at least overcast if it's not raining.
Oh yeah,
game. Always something.
It's Black Friday. I mean, you're on Amazon buying a TV and you're watching Arkansas Mizzou in a crap fest of a battle that'll probably
go out.
No.
Is there anything more depressing than seeing like a Best Buy at like 7 p.m. on Thanksgiving Day that's like about to open? You're like, God.
By the way, the lock of the week, this game's going to be 6-3 at halftime.
I was like, whatever. The under could be 12. I would take it. I would take it in a heartbeat, man.
You're going to be like punching yourself. Like, this is painful, but you can't turn it off. You can't turn it off.
Football.
All right, the night game on Friday. I like this. Prime time on ABC, 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. It is 6-5 Florida at number 19 Florida State. FSU around a 9.5-point favorite at home at Doak Campbell Stadium. What the hell happened with Billy Napier? Everybody was riding high. They dominated South Carolina 2 weeks ago, and then they go and lose to Vandy. What the hell?
Now, we were talking about this on the other podcast, and I'm just shameless plug. You got to listen to the College Football Uncensored podcast this week after you listen to Locked On SEC, because this is the best SEC podcast out there. But we did a little drunk history about like where each of these came from. You know, they used to play this game just for a bag of meth and jean shorts. Just a pair of painter's jean shorts from Old Navy with a pack of meth in the back right pocket. And it was brought to my attention. Billy Napier low key looks like he's like, if you told me that Billy Napier dealt Jimbo Fisher's son an eighth of oregano, I wouldn't think you were lying. I'm just throwing that out there. He's in all the Jordan stuff.
Little of a mechanic look too. Like he could be like, comes out and goes, all right, it's gonna be 875.
Right? He's always doing this with his hands. Yeah. He's got because the shaved head, it looks good. He's a good looking dude, but at the same time, I don't know why I keep doing this with my hands, like I'm hugging you through the screen. Yeah, exactly. He's got that high top fade. I love it. No, I think Florida is their entire offense is explosive plays. Florida State is one of the best teams in the country at limiting explosive plays, according to my podcast partner, who's also a diehard Florida State fan. So that could be a complete made up lie. I don't know. At the same time, I think Florida State at home, this is like not to hate on you, because you're one of my favorite people, but also LSU fans in general. They keep looking back at this Florida State game. It's like, if we would have made that extra point or we went for 2, it's like this foregone conclusion they would have won that game. At some point, you kind of got to give Florida State some credit here and look at the fact that they've had a really good season. They're 8-3. You win this game and you're almost a double-digit favorite at home. It's like, I don't think they cover. I do think they win outright. But you're talking about 9-3 going into a bowl game, probably a New Year's Day bowl game, or maybe the Gator Bowl. I don't know. And you have a chance to win 10 games at Florida State, which has not been something that's happened, and I feel like in quite some time. So I think it's a great opportunity. I think it's a great opportunity for Mike Norvell. I think they take advantage of it at home. I think they win, and I think Florida keeps it close, but I think Florida State wins.
By the way, I had an odds maker tell me if Florida and LSU replayed that game right now in a neutral field, LSU would be about a touchdown favorite. So
yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Just kind of interesting. I mean, LSU was a very different team back in the start of the season than they are now. All right, more with Chris Marler in just a second. We'll run through the 6 games happening on Saturday throughout the SEC. But first, want to remind you about our friends over at BetOnline.net. They are your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every pro and amateur league out there, from football to basketball, soccer, esports. They've got you covered at BetOnline.net. They even have sports podcasts up there as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way for you to get in on your betting fix. It's the last weekend of college football. This is sad. They're going to have all the bowl games. They'll have all that action for you going as well. But this is the last weekend to get in on multiple games. You lose on the early games, you can make back your money in the evening. Go do it over at BetOnline. You can head to their website today. You can do so on your mobile device to learn more. It is BetOnline, betonline.net for all the information. It is BetOnline. It is where the game starts. All right, one more segment with our buddy Chris Marler from the College Football Uncensored podcast. And Marler, let's run through some of these. We got 6 games happening on Saturday. We'll start with a couple of early ones. 5-6 Georgia Tech at number 1 Georgia in Athens. Georgia trying to finish off the undefeated regular season. They are 35.5-point favorites in this one. It is, I mean, nothing says clean old-fashioned hate like being 5 touchdown favorites.
All the Georgia lines are so sick. It's disgusting trying to be like it's like 35.5. Isn't the under like 48?
49, yeah.
That is disgusting. That is a disgusting take. That means like basically you're talking about a 45-3. And I kind of think that's exactly what the score will be. Like Georgia Tech's, I don't know what their team total is. It can't be over 7. There's no way it is, and I don't think they'd score over that anyway. Listen, Georgia's the best team in the country. They're going to repeat as national champions. They might 3-peat next year at this point, which is just crazy. But as somebody that's grown up in Atlanta, I just want to give a shout. Like, Georgia fans, don't get mad at me. I give you guys praise all the time. It's so awesome to see what Brent Key has done. What they did to North Carolina last week, I love that. They got to give this dude a shot as the next head coach there. I know this is an SEC podcast, but I'm begging you as a former SEC member, I'm gonna get on the soapbox here for Georgia Tech and give Brent Key a shot at being the next head coach of Georgia Tech, because there are very few people that could have done what he's done in this situation with him. He'll get boat race this weekend, though. It's gonna be bad.
Shout out to Jeff Collins. You just followed me on Twitter. I don't know. I think he must listen to the pod. Good for him.
Sorry for all that, Jeff.
11 a.m. Central on ABC. It is 7-4 South Carolina at 10-1 Clemson. Clemson around a 14.5-point favorite. I don't know, man. Prisoner of the moment. They just beat the crap out of Tennessee. I feel like Spencer Rattler's kind of rolling. I don't think they'll win, but I think I'm starting to buy into maybe South Carolina could cover this one.
Not since Michael Phelps got out of that pool in the 2008 Olympics and beat France has the entire country been united as a sport as much as South Carolina was, or as we were last week when South Carolina beat Tennessee. It was amazing. I'm sorry to your Tennessee contingent. I'm really not, because you guys are awful. But at the same time, it was beautiful to watch. Will that happen again this week? No, absolutely not. No. This is a ridiculous rivalry. These two teams really, really hate each other. I think this game, and maybe I know people say the Iron Bowl, and you talk about if you get outside of the SEC, the Michigan Ohio State game, but there's very few like Southern rivalries where they hate each other as much as they do Clemson and South Carolina. That being said, I'm taking Clemson to cover and win this game. Like it'd be awesome if South Carolina did, but I mean, do you see it happening?
9 of their 11 games this year, Clemson has scored at least 30 points.
Really?
It's hard for me to see if South Carolina can get to 30 in this one. I know they just put it on Tennessee, but that's where I think the discrepancy will be. I think they can cover, but like a 31-17 type final.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that.
I'm going to force you to transition into a game that you might have saved at the very end if we're going in chronological order, but you just brought up the 30 points. Can you guess how many times Texas A&M has scored 30 points this season against FBS opponents?
Oh, 0, right?
0. Isn't that crazy?
We'll get to that game in a second. Let me do the afternoon game, 2:00 Central, 3 Eastern on the SEC Network. It's 7-4 Louisville against 6-5 Kentucky. Kentucky around a field goal favorite. This one's at Kroger Field. We found out this week about Mark Stoops signing that contract extension. He's 0-2 since he signed that contract extension. We just found out about it, but he lost to Vandy in Georgia since. Now, they did go to put up a good fight. Give them some credit.
Sure.
But, man, if they lose to Louisville in this rivalry, Mitch Barnhart may be going, what did we just do? We just upped this man to $8 million a year, and he's 0-3 since he signed it?
They will lose Louisville this weekend. And it will get even worse. Do you know these two teams didn't play for 70 years in 1924 to 1994? Which at the time, if you really think about it, that's at the peak of these two programs, football-wise. Yeah. Like, can you imagine some of the matchups we missed out on in those 70 years? I hate to even think about that 1948 matchup, what that could have been. No, I think that like this game, I want Kentucky to win. It's an SEC team. They're going up against a Louisville team that, like, I will say this: Will Levis. This game, where's this game being played? Is it at Louisville or at Kentucky?
It's at Kroger Field.
Okay, then I would take Kentucky. I would take them to cover because Will Levis, final home game before he gets drafted number 1 overall, is the greatest quarterback in the history of the draft, according to Mel Kiper, even after his appearance last week. He actually looked pretty good last week against Georgia. I will say that. I know he threw a pick in a timely moment, but I will say he made a lot of throws in that game I thought looked good. Chris Rodriguez, just don't turn the football over. They're going to have a hard time stopping Louisville's offense, I think. But Louisville's been pretty good over the past couple weeks, too. This is going to be a good game.
They've been such an up and down team. Like they lost to Boston College, who's terrible, but then they beat Wake and they beat NC State a week ago. Like, where are you, Louisville? Like, we don't have no idea what they are. But
was it at Boston College? It shouldn't matter at all. But was it at Boston College?
It was, but they're terrible. Yeah. You should never lose there. That's
god
awful. But no, I'm with you. I mean, I think this is a close one, but I think Kentucky last home game. Will Levis, Chris Rodriguez, right. I think they win. And by the way, those young freshman receivers for Kentucky really coming on. Like, if they all stay, is it Shia, whatever the backup there? No, the backup to Will Levis, Kaya Sharon, whatever his name is. I think he'll be fine.
He was on Even Stevens.
Something like that. He was in holes. Night game, 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern on SEC Network. It is number 5 Tennessee at 5-6 Vandy. Dude, a week ago, we would have laughed at this game. Vandy's got a chance. Joe Milton and not Hendon Hooker a quarterback. Clark Lee has got this team playing hard, and he said something this past week. He said, we're going to look back at that Florida win and say that was the turning point in Vandy football history. Like, he's got me believing. Like, I don't know if they're going to pull off the upset, but Tennessee, minus 14. I like Vandy plus the points right now.
I saw it at 14.5. I would possibly take that. Now, here's the thing. You brought up Hendon Hooker and you brought up Joe Milton. You didn't bring up Mike Wright once. Not only is he a fantastic interview at media days, but Mike Wright has been fantastic in this office. That game was never like Florida wasn't leading in that game. I don't think.
Yeah,
Vandy pulled away, and then they had one of the most structurally sound and orderly fashioned storming of the field in the history of football, and it was awesome to watch. It was awesome to watch people actually know what to do in a fire drill. I will say it. Because usually we panic and we don't know what to do, and we're screaming and hollering, and they were just like, you know what, we've practiced for this, we're fine. No, it was awesome. Also, the fact that Greg Sankey and them fined them $250,000 for their third offense. When were the other two?
Had to be under James Franklin, right?
Like, it had to be in 1948, that same year when Louisville and Kentucky played that classic we don't talk enough about.
The winner won a bourbon barrel. What do you call it? The place where you distillery bourbon.
Yeah, actually, the winner got to own Cracker Barrel. It was the inception of that entire thing, and you get to run the store. No, I think that Tennessee wins. I think they win big. To be honest, I hate to say that. No offense, Tennessee fans. I think that everyone in the country, after what you saw last week at South Carolina, everyone's pulling for Vandy, and you know that. Still a great season for Tennessee. I think Joe Milton is better than people give him credit for, because like the most Joe Milton we've seen is last week in stoppage time. Well, been watching the World Cup, but in garbage time after Hendon Hooker was injured, and also what we saw last year. I think he's a little bit more accurate than we probably give him credit for, even though it's still got some issues. Now, he could throw the football. Like, we joke around about Uncle Rico, but he could literally throw the football out of that stadium. It's a very small stadium.
He's shown a little more touch this year than he did a year ago. So I'll give him that. And look, might be a blessing in disguise for Tennessee. It sucks to lose Hendon Hooker and wish him the best. But this gives Joe Milton some real game experience to show what he can do and set the foundation for next year. Because if he looks good, guess what? Tennessee's going to be a preseason top 10 team next year because they're going to be buying into Heupel, and then they're going to go, oh, well, Milton's back. Milton looked good. Yeah, Tennessee is preseason top 10 next year. So
completely agree.
That'll really help them. All right, 2 more games to get into. Let's get into it. Is number 6 LSU at 4-7 Texas A&M. The Tigers ran a 10-point road favorite. This has been a very one-sided rivalry since they've come over. I think LSU's won 8 of 10 against A&M in the SEC, but I think the last 2 at College Station have not gone LSU's way. They had the 7 overtime loss, and then the one where Kellen Mond beat them in the rain 2 years ago. It sounds like A&M's going to get healthy. There's a chance they're going to get Devon Achane back, Evan Stewart back. So, I mean, look, we can laugh, but like, this is A&M Super Bowl. They're not going to a bowl game. This is it. They're all in on this. And the fans, from what I'm hearing, are fired up. Like, they're going to come out and show out. Unlike that weird empty stadium against UMass a week ago, they're fired up for this one.
They scored 20 points against UMass, and they fired a cannon into a kid's face. I don't know if you saw that video.
Yeah, wasn't great. They were
very
praying.
weird. I don't. It was very. I mean, like, what? Why? What? I mean, like. Anyway, sure, Gordy. Sure, this is like I love you to death. If you think this is a Super Bowl for anybody, this is the worst. This is the worst. Here's the thing. A&M's going to go into this game, and they're going to have the 123rd ranked, what do you call it? Rush defense in the country. Now, what does that mean? Yeah, that's an appropriate response. That is an appropriate facial expression. So I think Daniels has a field day with this. I think Jaden Daniels has a field day with this. I think that like everything you want, like, because in a very different way, like, Georgia's going to go into the game against Georgia Tech with like, all right, we don't want to show a bunch of stuff. We still have the playoffs. We still have, like the game against LSU in Atlanta. Let's not show everything we have, right? If you're LSU, it is let's get as much confidence as we can. Put up effing 50 points. You're welcome. I stopped myself. Put up 50 points. Like beat these people by 30. This is the same team that cheated you out of a victory in 2018 and then printed cups about it. Like, screw A&M. Make them go 4-8. Like, nobody likes A&M, especially with Jimbo Fisher there at the helm. Go ahead and run this up, and then go into Atlanta with some confidence and yet another big win that people probably didn't think that was going to be there early in the season, especially in the preseason for LSU. So I think they win. I think they cover the spread. I think it's not even close, man. I think you come out in this game. I think this is LSU's Super Bowl. I think that you go out into this game and you prove a point.
Yeah, and UAB last week against LSU, everybody kind of looked at it as it's UAB, whatever. UAB had a top 5 rushing attack.
Yep.
And LSU shut it down. Harold Perkins, again, didn't have like eye-popping stats game, but he was everywhere tackling like crazy. And I think they're going to come ready to play. They know what's on the line. Now for A&M, you can try to play spoiler, and LSU an outside chance at the playoffs still if they beat Georgia. You give them a loss here, they're out no matter what happens in the SEC title game. So we'll see. It's a rivalry, but it's been a one-sided rivalry. I think LSU wins and wins big. And lastly,
hold on real quick. Let me ask you a question. Just real quick. How many sacks allowed, or how many sacks do you think that Harold Perkins can get in this game? Because I watched that Auburn A&M game from the field, and Connor Wegman was running for his life the entire. He had 13 straight incompletions. I think you're talking about like Derek Thomas level sacks here.
The weird thing is these last 2 great recruiting classes from the Aggies, they had a bunch of O-linemen in it. Like, where are those guys?
No idea.
Because this O-line
playing quarterback.
And Jimbo needs to be on that transfer portal talking NIL with all the best O-linemen in the country going, you need to come to College Station.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think Perkins, I'll put the over-under at 1.5. I think he gets to 2 sacks at least this week. Forced fumbles as well.
Yeah.
Lastly, it is the Iron Bowl. Marler 2:30 Central on CBS. It is 5-6 Auburn at 9-2 Bama. Bama around a 22-point favorite. What I don't like is I heard earlier this week from Bryce Young and Will Anderson both kind of saying, the media was like, oh, this might be your last game at Bryant-Denny Stadium. They were both like, well, we haven't made any decisions yet. Stop. Say it's your last game. We get it. Y'all are both going to be top 5 picks in the draft. Come out and let's celebrate your careers, and let's put everything on full display. We don't have to dance around it.
I completely agree. And I get the coach speak and all that kind of stuff, but for real, let them come out with the seniors. Let them come out. Those two players mean more to this program than a lot of people that have come through there that have won national championship. And I know they've won national championships, like each of them in their freshman year, even though Bryce was on a starter. Hate to see their careers come to an end. It is definitely the end of their career. I don't even think Saban would let them come back. Like I think like what he should do with Bill O'Brien, which is lock the doors as soon as they leave. Like I think he would actually do with Will Anderson and Bryce Young. I don't think Bama covers. They've not done well in 20-point favorite games. You saw it with Texas. You saw it last year, or you saw it last year and this year with A&M. Saw it last year with Auburn. And I know a lot of those games are on the road. They're in Bryant-Denny. The fact that this whole narrative has become like, what if Cadillac wins? Like, is Auburn going to be the only team that cares about it? I think you're going to come out and see inspired football early. You have a chance to end the season by beating your rival into submission and making them feel like they never want to step on that field again. And like, I hope they do it. I really either beat them by 50 or rip their hearts out. I said it on Twitter earlier today, and I hope it's exactly what happens. As a diehard Bama fan and all that kind of stuff, I had a great time at Auburn 2 weeks ago. It's a fantastic university. Lock the gates, run it up, and go out into the Capital One Bowl and end the season on a positive note. But make no mistake about it, this is the last time that Bryce Young and Will Anderson will ever put on that jersey with shoulder pads and go into a game for Alabama again. So I hope they win. I hope they win big.
Okay, but hear me out. If you're Bama, doesn't Lane as a head coach scare you a little bit more than Cadillac? Take one for the team, lose this game, make Auburn hire Cadillac, and Bama can dominate for the next handful of years in this rivalry.
No matter what happens with Cadillac, listen, here's the deal. I'm flat out. You can tell me I'm wrong when it happens, and I'll be happy to be wrong. Friday afternoon, Lane Kiffin will announce that he's stepping down at Auburn. He will be the head coach at Auburn. He's stepping down at Ole Miss, and he'll be the head coach at Auburn. And then on Saturday, he will be on game day. He will be on for real. He will be on game day. He will be on CBS. He will be talking about Auburn football everywhere they'll allow him. And then on Sunday, they will hit the ground running with recruiting and talking about this. But here's the other thing too. If you're an Auburn fan, talking about how Lane Kiffin, tell me Lane Kiffin's signature win as a coach. Because what you'll hear is he barely lost to Saban in 2010 as a head coach of Tennessee. Barely lost to him, even they lost by 15 in 2020. They could have won this year. Cool. He's never beaten Saban. And if you think that Nick Saban is going to lose to Lane Kiffin on the field, that's one thing. If you think he's going to lose to him on the recruiting trail or in the transfer portal, that's a whole other thing, man. That's never going to happen. That is never going to happen for as long as he's alive.
If he loses in the transfer portal, it's only because he has more spots to open. Saban's taken an average of 4 transfers an offseason.
Yeah, it's 5 this year, and I would count it as 4 because Jermaine Burton was one of them. So I mean, yeah, I think that is the weird thing where you've brought up all this stuff with not you personally. I'm saying in general, they've brought up all this stuff with Kiffin. Auburn fans are genuinely how do we get Quinshon Judkins? How do we get Ole Miss's roster? And it's a bizarre thing. I know we've gone super long. I just want to say one thing to you. It's Thanksgiving. Super thankful for you, buddy. And this has been the best. This has been the best doing this all season. Had a great time. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And this has been great, man.
You do the same, Marler. Appreciate you coming on with us. And we'll talk more college football very soon. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
All right, that's Chris Marler at Vern Funquist on Twitter and the College Football Uncensored podcast. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Now for your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Chris Gordon. This has been Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys later this week.